Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and deceased. It is I, and Mighty Sophia, here to break down for you guys the latest episode of The Walking Dead. We are on Season 6, Episode 6, Always Accountable, so spoiler alert, as I shall be bearing all in this review. Although I will say that I do not have any comic spoilers for you guys, just FYI, so you needn't fear encountering those here. And a couple of quick little baby channel updates. Be looking for, in the next couple months, a review of the first season of Twin Peaks, which, yes, I just started watching recently, and also a review of the video game Life is Strange. So, just a couple of things on the horizon. I know that my channel has been relatively quiet of late, but I'm still here, The Walking Dead's still here, and now we're going to talk about it. Let us do that. So, I think it's safe to say that this is probably not an episode that I'm going to count among my favorites for the season. However, I do think that the groundwork has been laid for the next major conflict and confrontation of the season and series as a whole. Judging by the three figures who Daryl encounters in the woods and ultimately gets screwed over by, I think it's safe to say that we are in for, well, a real treat as far as other human beings in this post-apocalyptic wasteland goes. At any rate, so this was sort of more of a character-centric episode. Mostly we're dealing with the aftermath of Daryl and Sasha and Abraham successfully leading the bulk of the Walker herd away from Alexandria. But then, of course, some complicating factors come into play which lead to them being separated. Not exactly divided in half, being that there's three of them, but we see Abraham and Sasha together hosting it up in the city, attempting to work out some issues and wait for Daryl to reconnect with them. And then we've got Daryl in the burned out forest and the people that he encounters there. So many delightful social interactions that he gets to experience. But yeah, so while this wasn't a particularly action-packed episode by any stretch, we still see a lot of interesting dynamics and events in play. And like I said before, I have not read the comics up to this point, so I know that everybody's starting to talk about Negan, and he was recently cast, so that's all fresh in the air, and we're excited. I'm excited, and I don't even really know much about Negan other than that there is a baseball bat, and he says a lot of naughty words. That's all I know. He doesn't sound like a good dude, but, I really can't judge. I don't know nothing. But yeah, so the three characters that Daryl encounters in the woods, Patty and Tina. Patty is the one who, she looked almost a little bit like Sansa Stark. Ever so slightly. Maybe I'm crazy, but yeah, so that was Patty. And then Tina was the one with the short hair who fell on the burned Walker bodies in the skeleton of a house that they found in the woods. There's lots of very dark landscape that we got to go through this week, especially on Daryl's end of the spectrum. But yeah, lots of shenanigans afoot there. He ends up getting captured. I forget what the name of the guy is, Mr. Blondie Boy, who's hanging out with the ladies, and knocks Daryl out. So once he comes back around too, it looks like they're going to take him along for the ride to go meet up with some other people that they left behind, yada, yada, yada. They give him some water. They're trying to keep him afloat, at least. And then when they get to where they were headed back to, they realize, oh, crap. It doesn't look like we're going to be able to find our peeps, at which point Daryl makes off with their duffel bag, finds out that he accidentally did a horrible, terrible human thing, and stole their insulin supply, Tina being diabetic. So, like the hero of the wilderness that Daryl is, he ends up taking it on back and then kind of forming a tenuous friendship, and, they're in this together. And that, of course, is the point at which members of this little group's community come looking for them, because evidently they took some stuff and did some things that they really should not have done. And at that point, Daryl helps set up a little trap to waylay the pursuers, and the guy idiotically falls, or like puts him. I don't know. It looked like he pretty much just put his arm on the walker and then it bit him. Like, there's just so many silly death sequences in this episode. I don't know if I am just callous, if you just really, if it takes a lot more to freak me out these days, but I was just like, oh, that's terribly unfortunate for you, sir. Rest in pieces. He gets his arm lobbed off, and that's enough to keep them at bay for a while, and so Daryl continues on with his peeps, and he's actually making like he's going to try to bring him into the Alexandrian community. He learns about their struggles, and they actually end up losing Tina along the way, and he's like, well, hey, you know, maybe we should try to make something work from this terrible situation. And so he asks the questions originally invented by Rick, the how many walkers have you killed, how many people have you killed, and why. And so he starts to get a response from the guy. Seems like things are going in the direction of them maybe teaming up and trying to get out of the woods and back to some semblance of civilization. But all that goes awry when they discover that Daryl's got a bike. So they get his sweet ride, they get his sweet bow, and then they go. And Daryl promises them that they will be sorry, which is the thing that I do believe. But anyway, so hopefully I kind of more or less accurately summarized that. But yeah, it was good to be back with Daryl. It's been a really long time since we spent some quality time with our old boy. So I felt so freaking angry when Patty and Blondie Boy jumped him, and oof, oh man. I mean, everybody likes to talk about like if Daryl dies we riot, but I was feeling riot brewing up in me when they took his gear, his business. He has had that thing on his person and has been in his element with it for such a long time. So yeah, that was kind of a bit of a game-changing moment there, but nonetheless, he presses on. He's able to get a truck, and he's able to go pick up his friends, and Abraham just got a spiffy new suit on, so they're all good to go. And they just so happen to get a response on the radio from somebody saying help, and now everybody's saying, oh, it's gotta be Glenn, it's gotta be Glenn. I have no idea. I really could not vocally, or I could not identify the vocals of whoever was making that plea, but I mean, I think that we have enough evidence to say that it could be Glenn. And I think that's what we're all wanting to hear, so who freaking knows at this point. But anyway, so shifting focus back over to Abraham and Sasha. Some interesting stuff there. They get some quality time, during which Sasha calls Abraham out on his BS and his sort of addiction to near-death experiences, and kind of the way that his PTSD has been manifested in him kind of attempting to maybe make riskier choices, if anything, just to feel the thrill of coming out on the other side, time and time again, something to keep him going, to keep him in touch with what little is left of his humanity. But of course, the way that he's behaving, or trying to anyway, it's risky at best. Really not practical in any way, shape, or form, and quite possibly lethal. So, you know, Sasha's basically trying to prevent him from getting what he's sort of almost wishing for on some level. So yeah, again, even though not a ton happened on their side of the story, we get to learn more about these characters in a way that I think felt more or less organic and was interesting. And kind of humorous at times too, because Abraham just says the darndest things, the most delightfully offhanded phrases, such as, loose ends make my ass itch. That is a thing that was said, and that has been trending around the world. So kudos to the members of the writer's room and whoever coined that phrase, because, well, you sure got a lot of giggles out of a lot of people, I think. But yeah, Abraham is full of awkward one-liners, if anything. So he is a walking, talking one-liner generator with an itchy ass and a big old red beard and a death wish. So just a lot of interesting things about him. Things to put on your post-apocalyptic dating profile, I guess. Please ignore me. Please ignore me. Even as you're listening to this, you can just tune me out. That's okay. Anyway, so we also got an interesting encounter between Abraham and a walker who has been skewered by part of the roof of a building. And what do you know? He's got a freaking rocket launcher attached to him. So this, of course, prompts Abraham to very dangerously attempt to reach out and grab said weapon after he finds some nice cigars and some things to launch from the rocket. Yeah, it's a really sketchy scene. I mean, they have these constant back and forths between just the look on Abraham's face and then the chompy chompers of the walker, or the hanger, shall we say. But then ultimately, when Abraham decides to step back, to stop putting himself at risk, to feel that thrill and sense of danger or whatever it is that he's really pursuing, once he finally decides to not do that, that's when the situation kind of resolves itself. And Sloopy McSlooperton shaloops right on off of the post on the building. And what do you know? He left behind a little gift, which Abraham gets to take home from the experience. So when life gives you firearms, you fire away. But sometimes you get to wait for those firearms to come into your possession. So yeah, it was kind of an interesting application of the discussion that he had with Sasha earlier as they're disagreeing about kind of how to approach the world. And they also get to talk a little bit more too about how Sasha is coming back into her own and is kind of regaining her grip, and she is in a better place than the land of the living, at least. And then they get down to the heart of the issue when Sasha asks, why did you feel like you had to accompany me? So that's when the real talk happens. And then ultimately, towards the end of the episode, we get a little hint of a budding romance between the two. And it seems like Sasha's playing harder to get. So she's not going to go down quietly or just immediately accept his advance, especially being that he's kind of technically in a relationship with the lady back at the home front. So that's a little problematic, I suppose. But he respects the crap out of her, and I guess that just gets him off. So I don't know. I don't know what to think about that situation, but it's good to see kind of that relationship explored more, since we haven't really seen them since earlier on in the season. So we get to spend some time with that crew. It looks like they're heading back to Alexandria, so I think soon we're really going to be racing out from the starting gates and headed into unprecedented territory. Certain doors are starting to close, certain things are starting to wrap up, and other doors are opening. And the fact of the matter is, the Alexandrians are so far from alone. Even with the scorched woods and the throngs of walkers that they've tried to reroute through the land, there are plenty of other groups in mini civilizations doing their thing. So, scariness abounds. But let me know what you guys thought of this episode. Again, not really my favorite, but I can deal with it. I'm just waiting to see where the cards all fall by the mid-season break. But yeah, leave your comments below. I would love to respond to them if and when I get the chance to do so. You guys are fabulous. Thanks so much for sticking around, and I can't wait to go further down this journey with you guys. So, y'all take care of yourselves, please, and as always, I will be back before you know it.